Joining us now is Ahmed Fouad Al-Khatib, Gazan analyst and senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, to help us understand how this resolution is being viewed on the ground. So let's start with the core question here. From a Palestinian perspective, does this UN Security Council resolution represent a real step towards sovereignty, or is it simply being seen as another round of vague promises without any meaningful guarantees?
Well, good to be with you. I will share with you that thus far, all the sentiments I've picked up in Gaza through friends, through family, through going through Arabic social media in Gaza have been overwhelmingly supportive of this resolution. And that's not about sovereignty. With due respect to the aspiration for sovereignty, which is a legitimate one, that's not what's on people's minds right now. What's on people's minds right now is the restoration of basic services, is to get rid of Hamas's dominion over the Gaza Strip now 20 years later that has decimated any prospect for hope and prosperity, and is to really begin the 1,000-mile journey, if you will, of reclaiming what Gaza should have been about, which is a role model for effective Palestinian self-governance. The biggest concern is the gap between the message of the resolution, which is very firm, very solid, very clear, and it does establish legal and political legitimacy to the idea of disarmament and the demilitarization of Gaza. On the other hand, you have Hamas in Gaza that has been entrenching itself since day one of the ceasefire, that has been collecting unexploded munitions to rebuild IEDs and fuel for rockets. You have Hamas that is willing to continue using the entirety of the civilian population, over 2 million people, as hostages effectively and human shields for its nefarious Islamist resistance agenda. And so that gap has yet to be bridged and remains to be seen. What I have been promoting is the use of out-of-the-box solutions, like complementing the International Stabilization Force, perhaps with some elements of the Palestinian Authority, or with private military contractors that can actually take on Hamas in a very professional, highly targeted way. But until that is addressed, much of what we saw yesterday being celebrated remains highly theoretical and unlikely to wield any results.
We have our international affairs analyst here with us, dperry, who actually wants to ask you a question as well.
Yeah, I love this idea of out-of-the-box solutions, and I've been wrestling with that myself. We're looking at a situation where this edifice built at the Security Council could amount to nothing, basically, because Hamas renders it a total mockery by continuing business as usual. I'm wondering if you think there might be some solution to enable the Palestinian population, currently 90% of it in the Strip under Hamas, to maybe move to the perimeter temporarily while the war that you're talking about, waged by whomever, is carried out without the population being essentially human shields for Hamas. Could something like that, not ethnic cleansing, but a moving around of the pieces so you don't resume the war under the previous paradigm where civilians are being killed because of this? Can you see something happening in that regard?
Well, that might very much be a part of I mean, I've very much so thought about this, but I'm assuming you're talking about the moving of the population or elements of it to what is now being dubbed as Eastern Gaza.
Correct.
Beyond the yellow zone. And I would certainly welcome, I mean, I have actually been highly critical of the strategy by the IDF that, like, for example, pushed the population from the north and just said, head south to Hamas-controlled territories.
Absolutely.
Which it like essentially, you know, prolonged this issue. But so that might very well have to be a component of it, because unfortunately, and unless we see some real movement in the next few weeks beyond the headlines and beyond the celebrations, we need to actually, we're going to face stagnation or a return to the old model of warfare that got us here.
All right. Well, on that note, I'd like to thank you for joining us as per usual, Ahmed.